It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. It's WCCS at FM 101.1, AM 1160. And in the studio with me this morning, Indiana County Sheriff Bob Fyock, Indiana County Commissioner Mike Baker. And the subject this morning is something that is coming up on Monday, the annual observance all around the nation of the 911 tragedies of 2001 and what they mean to us today. And Sheriff Fyock, we are getting set for a Monday ceremony on the steps of the Indiana County Courthouse.
Yes, Todd. We're looking at this. We need to try to keep this information and awareness in front of the public as much as possible. Today we're living in a more lawless society than ever before. People are taking advantage of everybody else, but we need to instill back in everybody's minds that on September 11 of 2001, we had the worst disaster that was ever brought upon U.S. soil by terrorists. And every day we need to be aware of that, and there's so many different things being addressed and taking everybody apart anymore.
Yeah.
Whether it be the presentation of the U.S. flag or individuals with certain rights, and everybody has their own stance of what they stand for. But the bottom line is everybody needs to understand that a lot of people died defending these laws, and a lot of people died to help these laws come in place so people do have freedom. And that's what we need to keep this anniversary constant and try to renew in everybody's mind what happened on that day and how lucky we are to live here in the United States of America.
Certainly is a different world today than it was so many years ago, and unfortunately in this country, as something gets a little bit more distant in the rearview mirror, we begin to relax a little bit, maybe let our guard down a little bit. Commissioner Baker, there will be this event coming up on Monday in the courthouse steps that will not only serve as a memorial to those whose lives were lost on that date, but also should serve to remind us of where we are living and what we need to do in order to be responsible citizens.
I absolutely agree. You know, there are a lot of things in America that divide us today, but the one thing I think that unites us more than anything is the events of September 11th, 2001. And those of us who were part of what happened that day, who were involved in that, the response and so on, need to continually, we don't need to be reminded because we can't get it out of our minds sometimes, but we need to continually remind people that we live in the greatest country in the world, and we were attacked, and America and the world was changed forever on that day. I can remember I was one of the responders who went to the plane crash in Shanksville that day, and I will never forget the things that I saw there. It was the most surreal experience I probably have ever had. And I was taking account, when I was getting ready to speak at an event last year, I kind of went through the numbers. And on that day, America lost, just victims, 2,977 people, almost 3,000 people. Over 2,700 of those were at the World Trade Center, and among them there were 343 New York City firefighters who were killed, and 23 police officers and 37 Port Authority officers. And since that time, I can't even give you the number of American military personnel who have died in response to that particular event and in the defense of our freedoms here. So Sheriff Bob and I talked, and we said this is an important event. We need to continue to have this each and every year to keep it fresh in people's minds that terrorism is out there. It wants to change our way of life and destroy our way of life, and we need to be constantly vigilant to make sure that that does not happen.
So, gentlemen, what is going to be happening on Monday, and what is the schedule of events?
We're looking at having the national anthem will be sung by Tracy Gordish, and we're going to have the invocation by Pastor Jack Lucas. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have the proclamation issued by the commissioners. I will be speaking about the 9/11, and we're also going to be having comments from the President of the Indiana County Fire Chiefs Association, Melvin Benamati, and also the Director of Citizens Ambulance, B.J. Pino. And Rich Morris is going to be here on behalf of the VFW Post 1989 to say a few comments. Jack, it's hard for me to call him Pastor Lucas. I've known him as the warrant officer or whatever coming up through the years, but Pastor Lucas will also be playing his bagpipes, which he does so greatly, to do Amazing Grace. And again, Tracy Gordish will honor us with the singing of America the Beautiful. And we're asking that as many people as possible come out to attend this service and show recognition to all the law enforcement, military, firefighters, and other emergency responders.
Gets underway at noon on Monday.
Correct.
In front of the courthouse, at noon. We would like to just put out an invitation for anybody who's available. We're not going to drag the thing out. It's probably going to go about 30 minutes or so, maybe 35 minutes or so, but we'd certainly like to invite everybody who's available to come out in remembrance of what happened on that day.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking, Mike, a couple of moments ago, and Sheriff Bob, you can certainly address this as well, about the climate today in America and the way that the country is responding to it. Unfortunately, America's best foot is not being put forward, and the number of police officers who have lost their lives in random shootings, in executions, in ambushes, it's escalating every day, and there's absolutely no reason for it, certainly no excuse for it, and people need to be vigilant, yes, and that goes with watching everything about them and seeing people around them and helping to identify when there's a threat to anybody.
Exactly. It's we have increased our security and awareness at the airports or ports of entry coming into the United States, but yet we've had numerous law enforcement just sitting maybe in their marked unit or whatever. Somebody comes up, just does an assassination on them, and even some of the innocent people that have been in bars, movie theaters, people are just out of hand. They go in, multiple deaths are being created by one individual.
Yeah.
And it's a shame the way things are, because responding to domestic relations, any incident that we may even be going out on, the fire, ambulance, because of the drug situation, it's getting so volatile and deadly. Incidents can happen so quick. You're responding to help somebody else, and all of a sudden you get exposed to this stuff, and that could be your last response that you were able to make.
Yeah, and you both are aware that in the drug culture in which we're in today, and with the fentanyl thing, an item of fentanyl that is smaller than a grain of salt can be fatal to somebody just from touching it, just from breathing it in.
And we've seen multiple police officers, even at a single incident, who have been exposed to fentanyl or carfentanil, and who have had medical emergencies as a result of it. And fortunately, they survived. But people just need to know the drug problem and the attack on our police officers and so on. All of this is an attack on our way of life, and we want all of our first responders, as a result of this ceremony that we are going to be doing on Monday, we want them to know that we stand with them and we stand behind them and we have their back, and we appreciate what they do for us, the sacrifices that they've made and they continue to make on our behalf, and we just want to be there to honor them.
No one is insulated. No one is isolated. Of course, the power plants have always been something that have been identified in federal documents as potential targets. The plane went down in Shanksville. It could easily have just gone down anywhere nearer than that. It flew right over my hometown of Oliver. I was mowing grass there last week, and I noticed a low-flying jet airliner as they approach the airports. They go right over that town. Could have gone down anywhere. Nobody is isolated, and nobody is insulated from it all.
You know what's interesting too is on that day, as we were on our way down to Shanksville, it was a pretty sunny and blue sky day. But one of the things that you were conspicuously missing were the contrails from airplanes that you normally see on a blue sky day, because everybody had been grounded as a result of that.
Yeah.
So it was just a very different day.
Monday, noon, the steps of the Indiana County Courthouse. Everybody invited, everyone who can should be paying attention on that day, and certainly that would be a wonderful way to observe not only a memorial for everybody who lost their lives, but also a time to honor those who stand, as we say on our Christian Witness program, who stand in the defense of freedom of our country.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being
Thank
with us.
you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, WCCS, AM 1160, FM 101.1.